Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome Carmine Appice to the program today. World famous drummer, author, songwriter, do it all in the world of rock and roll. Carmine, an honor to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're here to
Hey,
talk.
I forgot one more thing. Now I'm a recording engineer.
That's right.
I recorded the drums and other things on this Vanilla Fudge song and this latest album I'm releasing September. When they said Carmine Appice Engineering, I laughed.
Now, is that something you just recently got into, or something you've sort of done all along?
Well, I produced and all that, but I never ran any recording equipment like a board or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved to Florida here, I got a house that had a guest house, and the plan was to put a studio in it because my brother has one. It's so easy to get stuff going,
Sure.
when you got your own studio. So
Right.
so when we moved here a year ago, June, I put it in.
Nice.
And then I didn't know how to work it. Now, my brother Vinny is a computer geek. He built the whole system, and he put all the parts together. He bought the parts, put it all together, recorded at home, and then put it in a box and sent it to me with this thing called TeamViewer. And with TeamViewer, you're able to go on my computer here.
Right.
And between that and FaceTime, I learned how to work it.
Well, amazing, isn't it, compared to the way rock and roll once was,
Yeah. And that's, if the other guys in the Fudge had this kind of setup and they know how to work it, we could do an album after album.
Sure.
But nobody does. I'm the only one that has one. They're all, the bass player is, he's a computer literate, but not like this. And Vinny and Mark, forget about it.
Well, speaking of Vanilla Fudge, we're here to talk about the single that came out a few days ago. You guys did The Supreme Stop in the Name of Love.
Yeah, we did.
Tim Bogart's last appearance. Tell us a little bit about how this all came together. There were sort of a lot of hiccups that came along, but it was you that kind of took the bull by the horns after you went to the NAMM show in 2020, correct?
Yeah, I had to do that. We have a great manager. This guy, Tom Vitorino, is a visionary guy. He's really a cool guy. And he's got a lot of cool ideas. And one of his ideas was to do an album called The Supreme Fudge. This was like in 2019. So we started thinking about it. And we said, yeah, we can do that. Do like, I don't know, 3/4, Supreme songs and maybe a couple of R&B songs or a couple of originals and mix it up a little bit, But the majority would be doing Supreme songs. So we went in and did a studio, in like the end of November, beginning of December. And we rehearsed and worked up the arrangement. We were there a couple of weeks, worked it all up, and then we put some recording. We did 2 or 3 tracks of it. And we said, all right, we got it. So we're cool. So we'll come back after the holidays and we'll work on it. And then we found out Tim Bogart had stage 3 cancer, like a few months before that. So while we're in the holidays, I said to Mark and the guys, and Tom, I said, it would be really cool if we can get Tim to play on this one, to play on the album, maybe a couple of tracks,
Yeah.
Because we were planning to go back in the studio after the NAMM show and all that,
Right.
So I said, well, maybe I'll ask him. And he said, okay. So Tim said he'd do it. He was hurting really bad.
Yeah.
I said, I'll go to LA for the NAMM show. Why don't we go to Jorgen's studio for the bass player from Government Mule, Jorgen Carlson. Let's go to his studio. Because we had worked there before, me and Tim, because we fixed some vocals, Tim's vocals actually, for a Beck, Bogart, and Appice live album that's coming out.
Nice.
Right. It still hasn't come out yet, and it's going to come out. And he knew Jorgen, and he liked Jorgen, and saying, Jorgen liked him and all that stuff. So Tim went there, and I said, and we'll put you on the track. So we did that. While we were there, Tim created magic with me. Once he got on the track, it was like magic. It sounded like us.
Right.
So, but Jorgen pointed out the drum sound sucked because the organ, guitar, and the other bass player that did the track with us, the leakage was all over the drums. So you couldn't raise the drums up without hearing all that stuff. So he said, you're gonna have to recut the drums. I figured, all right, well, at some point, I'll go, maybe in February or March, I'll go recut the drums in the studio in New Jersey. And then maybe we'll bring the guys back up and we'll start working on this album, because we had a deal with Golden Robot at the time.
Right.
And so after I went and got Tim on it, went to the NAMM show and all that. And then February comes, March comes, and this thing called COVID started happening.
Yeah.
And we said, so as it got worse and worse and worse, there's no way we could do any recording. And then I moved to Florida and I built a house. I built a studio in my guest house, and I started working with this guy, Fernando Perdomo, who I'm releasing that other album with. And between him and my brother, I learned how to operate my studio, and I was recording tracks with him. So I was learning. And then I got my two old Ludwig Cactus bass drums back from a friend of mine that had them, and I put them on the setup. It just sounded amazing. So now I was ready to tackle the Fudge song,
Yeah.
So I put a click on it and I redid all the drums, but now I redid it to Timmy and the band. So it was a lot easier.
Right. Yeah.
And then I tweaked stuff and I fixed this and fixed that. And I put some tambourine on it. And, we've had to get some guitar on it. And so basically I ended up producing the whole thing and putting it all together, where if I didn't do that, we wouldn't be talking now, because it never would have come out.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing that, Tom said, look, we can reduce this to just a single. And if it does well, then maybe at some point later on, we can do the album. I said, okay. So then we had a little bit of a budget to work with. So once we got it done, then I sent it to my buddy, Pat Regan, who's a great mixer. He mixed it. And then I sent it to my other friend, who's a mixer also. But what he did was he took it from digital and bounced it onto analog.
Okay.
And then back.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it gave it, it gave it a total analog sound.
Nice. A couple of questions. The first one I can think of is, what was the Supremes? How was this the choice made both back in the day when you did You Keep Me Hanging On, and now, obviously to redo it again as another Supreme song? What was the appeal with the Supremes as opposed to some of the other Motown artists or anybody else?
Well, we already did an album called Spirit of '67. We did some of the other artists like that, We did Heard It Through the Grapevine, and we did a few other songs like that. Was that one? Not Tracks My Tears. Oh yeah, it was Tracks My Tears. Anyway, but our manager, who's a visionary guy, he came up with the idea. He said, let's do an album of Supreme songs because you had such big success with the Supremes. And at the time we were talking about this, Quentin Tarantino just put Hanging On in his movie that was just coming out.
Right.
And since that came out, it quadrupled our royalties for a year and a half.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
So we agreed that maybe it'd be cool. The Supremes had a lot of great songs, but even though they were what we call hurting songs, they were all happy. The band sounded happy all the time.
Right.
And that's what we did to the first one and to all the first album, really, Yeah. So so that's how the Supreme thing came. And now with this one, with Tim, and then Tim passed away, it became like an open and closed book.
Yeah.
We opened in 1967, Would You Keep Me Hanging On?
Right.
And we closed the book in 2021 with the original band playing a new song on a new recording. What other band can do that today?
Not many.
Who couldn't? And all the bands from that era. Somebody said, well, ZZ Top. I said, that would have been true, but now Dusty's gone.
Right.
But they weren't from 1967.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
67, you have the Who, they can't do it.
Right.
Hendrix, they're all gone. You have the Cream, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Who else did you have?
No. Yeah. Exactly.
Jefferson Airplane.
Right.
Some of the guys are gone.
Gone. Yeah. Paul
You
Kent
know,
gone.
the Doors,
Yeah.
gone. You know,
Yeah.
so we had 4 original members playing the same kind of thing that we made it big on. That closed the book.
Yeah.
It's 54 years later.
The sound on it is amazing. I got to ask you a question, and I'm sure I'm going to apologize first before I even ask this, because I know you've probably been asked it a billion times, but I don't know the answer. Have you ever met any of the Supremes, Diana Ross, any of the other girls?
Yes, we met Mary a lot.
Nice.
We met Mary Wilson a lot. And we met Holland. I met Holland Dozier Holland.
Oh, that
who
must have
wrote
been
the
awesome.
song.
Right.
And they said, I gotta say, your Vanilla Fudge version, if you keep me hanging on, is the best version ever recorded by anybody in the
Wow.
history of music. And
That
so
is
we had a lot of
validation right there.
covers. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of covers, and Mary Wilson loved it.
Mm.
And Rod Stewart loved it to the point where he said, I wish I would have done that. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what, Rod? I'm in the band. Let's do it. So
Mm.
we did it.
Nice.
And we played it live. And it was a similar version, but we had more guitar thing, double guitar lead, melodic lead solos, and we had an orchestra thing in the middle, you know.
Mm.
Rod sang the hell out of it, you
Yeah.
know.
Awesome. The other thing I want to ask you about, you talk about how you and Tim created magic as you recorded this, and we talk about just the people that are gone. Tim's gone now. You mentioned Dusty Hill and stuff. And as a fan, I'm losing someone whose music I've always appreciated, I've always listened to. It's carried me through hard times. You're losing friends, peers, people you have toured with, people, you have broke bread and drank wine with.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, Tim as a person and how you cope with all this,
Well, when he told me that he had this and he's going to die, and then he knew he was going to die in the next few days, he called me. I mean, I broke down and cried with him. He was like my brother.
Yeah.
There wasn't, any long amount of time except for when we had a fight back in 1974, because when we came out of Beck Bogan Appice, and we had, Jeff broke the contract, and Vanilla Fudge had a big contract with Epic Records going, and Tim didn't want the manager we had or the lawyer, who were big people, they were big shots, a lot of power, and he didn't like them because he thought they were ripoffs, and he gave me an ultimatum he said, look, either we get rid of them or I'm not going to do these 2 deals. So he blew like $125,000 out of my pocket back in 1974. So you tell me how much 125 grand is worth today.
Yeah, big money.
From back then. So I said, well, I'm done. I'm not, forget about it. You just chat me out. You're supposed to be my brother and Mark and Vinny's brother, and you just killed us all. So then we went on, did our own things. I ended up playing with Rod, and I never heard about Tim anymore, And then I'm playing with Rod in London. I'm walking on the street. Somebody calls me, I turn around, it's Tim. This is like 3 years later. Like, what are you doing here? So I'm playing with some Italian band, and I stay in London when I'm not working. So we went up to his house, and we smoked some hash, and we made up.
Nice. Yeah.
And that was 1977. Then I got him to play on a couple of Rod records, and and I've been with him on and off ever since.
Excellent.
But he was a great guy. He was a crazy guy. He'd do anything. He'd throw TVs out the windows just for fun, and when airplanes were a little less like security, we used to put you used to get pillows on the airplane. Tim always had these purple sunglasses, and the real glasses, they're thick, like John Lennon glasses.
Yeah.
And we put the pillow on his head, and we put his sunglasses on over the pillow, and they used to have the megaphones on there. And we sent him down the aisle into first class singing Winchester Cathedral. And he would do it. And then, like, he was the other the other type of guy he was is that we used to call him Spock. I think if you listen to the side B, which is when we talk about Tim, the tribute to Tim, and you could ask him anything,
Mm-hmm.
and he would know an answer. And if you didn't know the answer, he certainly made you believe like it was the answer, because he told in such a great way that you didn't know if it was the answer or not.
Yeah.
So we used to call him Spock because he answered everything all the time.
Now, as a bass player and a drummer, you guys got to lock in on that rhythm section. Was it instantaneous with you two, or did it take a little time?
It was instantaneous, because when I joined Vanilla Fudge, they were called the Pigeons. I had another band, and all the bands I had preceding that never had a bass player. It was always the left-hand organ or organ on the bass, foot, like the Rascals.
Sure.
And when they asked me to join, I went and play with them. And I played with Tim, and I went, "Oh my God, this guy is unbelievable." And then eventually, the bass player used to follow the foot. Eventually, Tim followed everything I did.
Oh.
The hands, the feet, the cymbal crashes, the toms. And it created this unbelievable style between us, that was so high energy that nobody played like us.
Wow. Amazing stuff. And you also had a little brush with your own mortality a couple of years ago.
I did. Yeah. That was horrible. And I still have to live with that because of it, I'm not going to go to Europe or Australia or any fun place that I really love playing, because I can't go too far from America, because anytime that thing can happen at any time. It's like it's a vein behind my nose that keeps growing back.
Right.
Like the body thinks it needs this vein there, and when it breaks open, it's connected to an artery, and it just doesn't stop bleeding.
Yeah. That must have been incredibly scary.
It was scary. I mean, it turned me into a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was first of all, it happened right on stage in the last gig, of all places, the Canary Islands, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then when I finally got on a plane back to New York, we had bought new tickets with our American Express, thank God, because I ended up bleeding on the plane. They dropped me and my brother off at the Azores in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. And then I had to get a medical airlift. And luckily, because I bought that ticket with the American Express, they gave me a medical airlift back to Paris. They packed my nose at the Azores. And when I woke up in a black room with one light on, I thought I died.
Yeah.
And I prayed to God to get me out of that. I prayed to Jesus. I said, please help me out of here. And I got out of it. When I got back to New York, finally, the gauze was still in my nose, and it was septic. And they said, one more day, I would have been dead.
Wow.
So after that, I started listening to the Bible every day and going to these Christian churches. And when I came down here, somebody turned me on to this church that's unbelievable. The band was amazing. The singers, like gospel singers. And it was like a revival. But they had electronic drum set. So I said, oh, you can't have that. So I called my drum company, D-Drum, and I got them a nice D-Drum kit that they have in the church. And then I realized how good this kid is. He's 28 years old. He's a monster.
Yeah.
And then I started writing these Christian songs and doing them at my studio.
Sure.
Doing them with my drums here and sending them to Fernando Perdomo, who's the instrumental album. He did the bass, guitar, and keyboard. And then I brought the singers in here and I put the vocals on, and now I'm getting them mixed, and I'm trying to get a Christian deal. And they're really good songs. They're really, great. I listen to the Christian radio just to see what's going on.
Sure.
And the singer in the church is amazing. I got some of the female singers to sing on it. And I become really close with the whole church now, with the pastor.
Excellent.
And one of the songs I wrote, I told him, how I wrote the song and how I got saved, by praying to Jesus, when I was on this situation. Yeah. He wants me to do a testimonial and then play the song that I wrote with the band, at one of the church services.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that. And I can, my plan is to get these songs written, get them emailed to everyone in the church. It's like thousands of people go to this church.
Right.
And then when, after about 3 or 4 weeks and they know the song, go in and rehearse, get the songs, play them with the band with 2 drummers, right? Me and the other guy, and get them singing and all that. And they got the facility to, shoot it for the internet. Shoot a
Right.
video with 3 or 4 cameras with all the church singing it, with the band playing it. And that'll be my demo.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It's
Awesome.
awesome. It's awesome. It's
Fantastic
really,
stuff.
and you know what? Every time I go to this church, I come out, I'm inspired. I go in, the band plays 45 minutes. I go and say hello to everybody. I say a prayer with the band, every time before they hit the stage, they involve me. Everyone holds hands. Really, so nice,
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
so nice.
Awesome.
So it's really inspiring. This is very inspiring.
Very much so. So we've got the single coming out it's come out now for Stop in the Name of Love, the Vanilla Fudge. I saw your show, few upcoming shows had been canceled. Is that pretty much?
Well, just 2 of them have been canceled.
2 of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple in Illinois, I think it was.
Yeah, but the other ones are still going. I'm hoping, because we're looking forward to, but it does create a problem for me,
Yeah.
The problem is I was gonna, we were gonna rehearse in Chicago. I had it all arranged and do those 2 gigs. Then we'd be tight again. You have to play the 2 gigs. And then I go to LA, my daughter gets married, I come back, and I got gigs in November with Cactus, 3 gigs. So I was gonna rehearse with Cactus in New York for 2 days and then play the next New York gig with Fudge. But now that those gigs are blowing out, I'm gonna have to figure out how to rehearse with Fudge and Cactus.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Double duty.
yeah,
I'm sure you will figure out a way, Carmine. I'm sure you've done something like that before.
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna figure out. I mean, I played a gig one time with Cactus and Vanilla Fudge. That was interesting. Because we got on with Cactus, and I was with Tim. We got on with Cactus. We kicked ass. And Tim said to me, "It's gonna be hard following ourselves."
Yeah, true.
I said, "Yeah, you're right."
Carmine, we've only got a couple minutes left. I've got to ask you one more thing. Of course, Vanilla Fudge did a lot of early tours with Zeppelin, and everybody knows, the famous and the infamous stories. Can you give me just a quick memory of an interaction you might have had with one of the guys in Zeppelin, or a memory that, maybe not a whole lot of people hear about? Doesn't have to be anything over the top, just something.
Well, I'll just tell you a funny story about Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull. How's that?
Okay.
All right. So we played a gig in Chicago, and both those bands were coming up. Vanilla Fudge was the headliner. So Jethro Tull opened up, then the Zeppelin, and then Fudge. So when Jethro Tull went on, me and Bonzo stood behind them, and we were throwing spitballs at Clive Bunker, who was the drummer. All right. So then when Zeppelin went on, me and Clive Bunker threw spitballs at Bonzo. And of course, when I went on, them 2 stood behind me and threw spitballs at me. So those are the kind of tours that you did back then,
Yeah.
They were fun. There wasn't a business yet.
Right. Right.
So
it was a brotherhood.
It's a brotherhood, and we all played Ludwig drums on that thing. I got Bonzo his Ludwig endorsement. And that night, Ludwig came down with different drum parts for us to test. And between the 3 of us, we broke pedals, we broke stands, we gave it back to them. Because, I was the guinea pig for Ludwig for coming up with new, strong stuff. Because when I started playing Ludwig, it was all the stuff for the jazz guys, and the other Ludwig endorsers, Ginger Baker, Mitch Mitchell, they didn't play hard and heavy,
right.
And I was like breaking stands, breaking cymbals, breaking everything. Broke pedals. So they were trying to accommodate me, knowing that this is where it was going.
Sure.
And then Bonzo came after me, and he was doing the same thing. So that night they brought us a whole bunch of stands, and we broke them all.
All right, Carmine, I thank you very, very much for the time today to talk about this. Once again, we're chatting about Carmine Appice. Vanilla Fudge has the single out, their cover of Stop in the Name of Love. It's fantastic.
Thank you,
Came
man.
out September 6th on Golden Robot. Much well wishes, Godspeed, and everything going forward with everything, with your health and the tour and everything, Carmine. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, bro. Really appreciate it, dude.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.